Welcome, everyone. It is so wonderful to see all of you. Thank you for dropping into the chat where you're joining us from. We are very excited for this conversation. In addition to sharing your name and where you're joining us from today, we have a quick opening question for all of you. Please drop your responses in chat to the question that Yvette just put in chat, which is what excites or concerns you most about AI literacy in informal STEM learning environments? And again, I am Pati Ruiz, co-PI of the Revise Center, and I am very excited to be joined by Antony Negron, Director of Digital Programming at New York Hall of Science. And I am thrilled to introduce Dorothy Bennett, who is also joining us from the New York Hall of Science. She's the Director of Creative Pedagogy, leading research and development efforts to create inclusive museum design activities, digital tools, exhibit experiences, and outreach programs centered on computational thinking, human-centered engineering, and STEM learning. And we're excited to have her with us today to give us an overview of the humanistic approaches to artificial intelligence literacy through informal learning conference. Dorothy, we're very excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. I was running into some problem here with my, here you go, right? So hello, everybody. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Pati. I am thrilled to be here because we started this journey about 4.5 years ago with Pati and Andy Rubin, many people who are on this call, in recognizing that informal spaces and museums in particular had a really important role to play in promoting public awareness of artificial intelligence that really centered on how AI is touching people's lives, but also what are the essential skills we need to navigate this environment. So the why behind that ended up being that even though we all had these concerns, and Pati, thanks for this one. This was early on from the conference. You shared this. Was most of and I'd say this was about 2022, 2021, 2022. Much of the talk and discourse about AI literacy, if you will, was learning about the technology itself. It was very technocentric. It was about learning about these different forms and the many different forms of AI that exist. And there was also some concern about ethics at the time, as well as discussions bubbling up about bias. But by and large, the real discussions about human-centered skills that would be needed to navigate this new world weren't really in the public discourse. And so then ChatGPT, as you all know, hit the scene in 23 in the winter. And in the middle of when we received a grant to actually convene people to talk about what human-centered approaches to AI would be. And at the time, it really entered people's consciousness that this was going to be a transformative technology in ways that were different from other technologies in the past. So I love this. I still use this from many years ago because it was kind of every field recognizing like the way we work, the way we learn, the way we access information is going to change, anywhere from endocrinology to accounting and fashion. And so how could we contribute to that conversation? So we took on this mission at the time in this convening, a 2-day convening that Pati was on our planning board. Andy was a presenter. You know, many people helped to shape this work. And our mission was to look at how we can center human-centered AI in what we do. And really, I love this quote from Ben Schneiderman because it focuses in on not so much the technology itself, but how can we think about technology in ways that amplify, augment, or enhance our abilities, right? So how can we empower people? How can we build their self-efficacy with AI? How can we actually support creativity, right? Also recognize responsibility, safety, all those things. And I think this last one's really important. Promote social connections, not isolation, which I think we are all now realizing AI has the potential to do as well. So a result from this work was a framework that we came up with both as a planning committee and then in the 2 days that we convened 45 experts. And by experts, I mean experts really diverse, diverse cultural backgrounds, people from community-based organizations. Many of the people on this panel were involved. And we wanted to have a way of talking about what is this human-centered AI? And at the center of it was agency. And what we've been finding as we share this is that this is actually a useful way in thinking about the work that we can have moving forward. That's less about focusing on the technology and more about what are those essential skills, practices, and mindsets that we can promote with AI. So starting with agency and using AI, yes, a lot of that is getting proficiency with AI tools, but it's also data literacy. How do you get people knowing that data is human shaped, right? Understanding where AI is coming up in their everyday lives. Prompt engineering skills, we could scratch that term, but really those essential questioning skills that you need to collaborate with AI. Then agency in interrogating AI, super important, right? Not only can we use it, but how do we interrogate it? How do we unearth bias? How do we understand why diversity in AI matters? And by that, I mean lots of data, diversity in data, the way we train it, the models we create, the algorithms that it uses. All of these things are important to interrogate. And also to consider when an AI tool should be used and not. And finally, this last bucket, if you will, is this agency in designing with AI, right? And I want to say beyond coding at this point, because let's face it, coding is becoming another thing right now as AI is able to do more and more of that. But it's more about how do we engage people, our audiences in informal settings, the public, families, children, in reimagining how AI can meet human needs or community needs. How do we engage them in those conversations? How can we expand notions of who gets to contribute? How do we build spaces for that to happen? And then how, of course, do we build the capacity to design with it and be creative, be expressive? So I know other people are going to share in a second other frameworks, but I think this is an interesting way of centering humans first. So I'm going to just shortly share an example of what NYSCI has been doing since then. We have a current collaboration going on with the National Institute for Artificial and Natural Intelligence. It's an NSF National Center that's looking at the intersection and trying to further research at the intersection of neuroscience and AI. Lots of interesting things happening there, both in terms of how does AI help us understand ourselves and our brains and how we learn, but the other way too, how does our understanding of us help build better AI? Lots of ethical, scary questions come up in that universe. Our official role as a museum here is the museum outreach partner, translating the findings of the research centers, and they are a national consortium of at least 20 institutions, industries, academia, to things that really are relevant to the public, but also, again, build this kind of agency we're talking about as technology is evolving. So one thing we've been doing with our explainers is they participate in a fellowship over the summer. They spend time at Columbia University really learning about the research and then come back and collaborate with us and some Arnie mentors to create interactive conversation starters for the museum floor. So this one, emotion detectors, is humans versus AI. Really always has at the moment, the model is having an analog piece. So we start with humans, right? How can people on the left, you can see, we'll engage them in sorting these images of facial expressions. And, how can you tell people's emotions just by looking at their faces? And what do you think they're expressing here? Anger, surprise, etc. And then on the right is this technology, a facial recognition technology, which does not collect any data on people walking up to it. So it was really important, and we're transparent about that. But it actually reads your emotions, right? And what we love about this, I'll just show you the example. Just let me know if it's playing. Here you'll see someone facing here, and you're getting immediate feedback of whether that expression is happiness, fear, or sadness. You're also getting their gender, how old they are. And what's really interesting about this kind of juxtaposition of what humans do and what AI does is that immediately gets things wrong. You turn your face, you're all of a sudden 27 years old. And actually, we have visitors we tested this out with that try to trick it, like, oh, can I be younger? Can I be older? Can I be a different gender? What is it in fact looking at? What's the data it's using? So our job here really is to raise those critical questions with visitors, not answer all of them, but begin to get them in that new relationship to technology where they're interrogating it in a different way. Now, also, we, like lots of museums do, and we're thinking of more dynamic ways to do this, is having talkback boards as well. Where should this be used, if at all, right? And here is where we want to hear from visitors about their ideas of what kinds of applications make sense. So I would put this in that bucket of agency and interrogating AI, right? Getting those conversations started between children and adults. We're also now thinking about extending exhibits through AI-enabled storytelling, and I think Ozzy and others will talk about ways in which to do that creatively with AI. But some of the examples, we have an exhibit called CityWorks that's about urban planning and infrastructure. It's like, how can we use generative AI to get visitors and beginning to tell stories about observations in their neighborhood that are creative? Same with doing beyond the walls work. You know, how can we use AI to do neighborhood block studies that, again, are looking at infrastructure and so on and so forth? So I would end there. There are a couple of design principles that we've been culling from this work as we go along. I think we can get back to these, but I'll just highlight that one of the things that grew out of that early convening and stuck with me is something a colleague from Sesame Workshop had said, which is, what would AI look like if it loved us? Like, how do we put families and children's well-being at the center of designing AI that makes sense, right? Um, how do we help people rethink their relationships to AI as a collaborator, not as a, replacement for all of us? Because this is a big fear that we have. Creativity, all of those things, communities of care and repair. AI does do some harm. How do we become the spaces to do that kind of support? And of course, like joy, play, exploration, which I think other folks are going to talk about. Um, and I will stop there.
Thank you so much, Dorothy, for sharing that. Super excited to be part of the conversation today and just be joining with everyone. And I wish we had, you know, almost the rest of the day to be involved in this conversation. Um, so I'm going to transition to our one of our excuse me, one of our next other panelists. So before I kind of give a bio to our presenter, I just asked for you to kind of put into the chat your response to the following question. What's one specific aspect of AI literacy education you want to explore today? So while you're putting your responses in the chat, I'm proud to introduce a colleague, a friend, Jessica Santana. Jessica is the co-founder and CEO of America on Tech, a national organization preparing the next generation of technology leaders from underestimated communities. Under her leadership, AOT has expanded to New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and Atlanta. It's raised over $20 million and has been featured in outlets including Forbes, CNN, TechCrunch, and Black Enterprise. Before launching AOT, Jessica's worked as a technology consultant at Accenture and Deloitte, and has since been recognized with numerous honors, including Forbes 30 Under 30, Crain's New York's 40 Under 40, the Robin Hood Power Fund, and the Camelback Ventures Guardian Award. She's been named the Ahsoka Emerging Innovator, a Pahara Next Gen Leader, and a fellow of the leading institutions such as the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, Stand Together Foundation, and the Roddenberry Foundation. A sought-after speaker, Jessica's presented to more than 100 audiences, including South by Southwest EDU, TechCrunch, Google for Entrepreneurs, and the White House. Her global commitment to social impact has taken her to Europe, China, South America to collaborate with nonprofits and social enterprises. She holds degrees in accounting and information technology from Syracuse University, along with an executive education from Columbia Business School. Jessica, we're so grateful for you to join us today, and I'm going to pass the mic to you.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here with each and every one of you. I always say that it's one thing to do the work, but it's also another thing to be able to tell the story of the work. And so I always appreciate forums like this where I get to share a little bit more about what we've been doing at America on Tech. So, Anthony, thank you so much for thinking of me for this opportunity. And so what I did was I prepared a little bit of a presentation just to give you an overview of our organization, but then talk to you all a little bit about the work that we've been doing with artificial intelligence as it relates to the last 12 months. And I think this conversation is important because we've always been a technology organization at America on Tech. We really believe that for us, the power and the uses of technology to create and build the future for young people is one that is part of a modern day civil rights issue. For me, I grew up in New York City and went to New York City public schools my entire life. And I was the first person in my family to graduate with a degree in technology and then ultimately start my career in tech. I was making about 4 or 5 times my family's household income in that first job. And I realized that, there wasn't anything special about me that allowed me to do that, except that there were unique set of opportunities that created that pathway. And I really wanted to make sure that other young people had the opportunity to do the same. And so that is where the work of our organization came from. And let me know, can you all see my slides? I just thumbs up. Yes. Okay, cool. So AOT really is focused on addressing the educational challenges, the socioeconomic factors, and the lack of social capital that really leaves young people out of degrees and careers in tech. We completed our 10-year anniversary last year, and it just so happens that during our 10-year mark, we started thinking a lot about what innovation will look like. We partnered with the Robin Hood Foundation to develop a strategic plan that would span the period of 2024 to 2027. So we just closed out the first year of that strat plan. But embedded in that strat plan was thinking about what we were going to become in this new age of artificial intelligence. And so every single thing that we're doing over the next 3 years is really focused on building our organization, not just as a nonprofit program that runs AI programs, but also even thinking internally about how we were going to be using AI. And so, a little bit about our program model. We run both high school and college programs for our young people. Our high school programs are focused on, short-term programs over the summer, as well as a year-long immersive called Tech Plus Leaders. I'll send you all these slides afterwards so that you have them. But outside of the high school programs, we have our college and career programs. We place students into internships and jobs. We hire back our alumni, and we also partner with the industry to co-create credentialized fellowships that lead young people to careers in tech. And over the last 10 years, we've worked with over 5,300 students across the country. We've established offices in 4 locations, with Atlanta being our newest location as of this summer. And we offer 7 different technical tracks. So we're not just a coding organization, though that is how we started, was just as a software engineering program. But in 2019, an alumni survey revealed to us that our young people were actually really interested in learning other kinds of tech skills, which enabled us and pushed us to create tracks around UX design, cybersecurity, data science, and a whole bunch of other tracks. Um, and along with the strat plan that we created for the organization last year, we also developed our AI strategic plan as well, which included involving the organization, evolving the programs, evolving the operations, and then evolving the field. And this strategic plan for artificial intelligence at AOT has its own set of metrics, objectives, and key results that we're holding ourselves accountable to, but it's all being guided by the establishment of an AI council that is comprised of leaders in artificial intelligence on the private sector side that's really helping us think about what can we be doing and teaching and learning from industry that we can bring back to the organization to really optimize in this new age. And so all of the folks here are helping guide that strat plan. And other things that we did with artificial intelligence over the last couple of months has been transform a lot of our programs, most notably our Tech 360 program used to be an introduction to web design and development program over the summer, and it's become an introduction to artificial intelligence course over the summer. We basically rehauled the entire curriculum, and this is basically what the curriculum looks like now. So really getting young people to get the mindsets and the skills that they need to confidently interact with artificial intelligence. And at the end of it, students develop a final project, which is a basically an AI powered chatbot. And this summer we had a lot of demand just for the slots that we had. We had 410 slots and we had 962 applications. So lots of interest in actually going into AI for young people, but not enough opportunities for us to be able to serve them at scale, which we're trying to work on for summer 2026. But outside of that, we built our own AI agents internally. We also have developed robust AI policies and ethical frameworks and inclusion statements that is guiding the organization overall. But would say really happy about the first version of the Tech 360 program that just won an Anthem Award for the impact that we had this summer. So we're really excited about it. And now the next step for us is we've rehauled our year-long program to become an AI enabled program, but we won't know the results of that until the closing of the program, which is June of 2026. I want to show you all a student final project video. So the young people in our programs, they basically are presented with a problem to solve after they complete the coursework. And over the course of several days, they work together to create these AI-powered chatbots that give them the opportunity to put the skills that they learned in our program to test. So what you are going to see is a demonstration of the chatbot that they created, one of the teams created over the summer. And it goes a little fast. And I'll lower this just so I can provide some narration in the background. But basically, they were presented with having to create an SAT solution for young people in their communities. And they worked with a set of engineers that come from some of our private sector partners, as well as their classmates, to be able to develop this tool that they basically now demonstrated in a program, and they competed against other students who were developing similar apps in the program across the country to be able to basically get a prize at the end of it. And what we have found was that, young people actually have an appetite to learn artificial intelligence. I think that they are a lot more savvy than what we give them credit for. I think where we have found is that there's a lot of curiosity among our student population on how to actually use this, but we also have found that we have to make these tools relevant and culturally specific to them. So a lot of the projects that they developed this summer were around real issues that they're experiencing as students or as young people in the communities that they're from. For example, there was a specific final project that happened this summer where a student developed a chatbot focused on a persona of an abuelita, which is a grandmother in Spanish terms. And basically, the abuelita was just providing like college guidance on how to get through the college application process. And so when they prompt the chatbot, abuelita would talk to them in Spanish and basically give them advice on how to apply to Syracuse or apply to whatever college or university that they wanted to based on the data that they rendered from the actual tool. And so we have found that there's interest. We have to make this stuff culturally relevant. We also have to get young people to tinker with the tools, and we obviously have to put guardrails around how they interact with these tools so that they're not emitting personally identifiable information onto these platforms that actually can harm themselves and harm their communities. So after the pilot this summer, we graduated 386 students across the 3 regions we brought the program to. 94% of the students completed the program. 99% would recommend the program to other students. 96% of them reported understanding AI literacy concepts, and 90% can now evaluate AI tool outputs. We disseminated over 160,000 in stipends because we are an earn and learn program. So all the young people who participated also generated income while they were with us. 78% feel more prepared to pursue technology degrees and careers post-graduation now that they completed the program. And what we think at American Tech made this unique was that it goes beyond a one-time workshop. It was, the pedagogy that went into the development of the curriculum was built on a decade of proven impact. The focus on AI and future-ready skills outside of just the technical skills that the students received. They also received a lot of professional development in the program that got to give them a sense of like where they can use these skills in the professional environment. We also have found that the curriculum itself is very scalable. So we're now going to be tinkering with bringing it as a train-the-trainer model to other schools and community-based organizations. The fact that it was designed with the industry, we think also was very helpful because it made it so that the skills were transferable to actual employment for students. And we are just really happy about the fact that we can scale the program beyond what we did this summer. And so that's it. Happy to take any questions that you all may have. I'll make sure that I send this deck to Anthony, and I just want to say thank you for having me today.
Thank you for joining us, Jessica. It's really exciting to see what you all are doing, and those final projects are impressive. And from an AI literacy perspective, I'm thrilled to see that you're helping your learners and the communities think really critically about their safety and privacy when using these AI tools. I'm sure people will have questions for you in the chat, so hopefully we can get those answered there. And I am very excited to turn to our next speaker. But before we do, we have another question for you all that will be dropped in the chat. And the question is, what does AI literacy mean in the context of hands-on experiential STEM learning? So with that, please answer in the chat. And I am excited to introduce Katrina Stevens, President and CEO of the Tech. Katrina was an educator, administrator, advisor, and policymaker, and she focuses on ways to create inspirational and impactful learning experiences for young people around the world. Katrina was also the Director of Learning Sciences at CZI and served as Deputy Director and Senior Advisor in the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Educational Technology. And now Katrina is the first woman to lead the Tech, and she is deeply committed to ensuring that people from all backgrounds play a role in STEM and the development of technology. I'm excited that she's here to share her work with us today. Over to you, Katrina. And if you could unmute. Can someone on our team unmute Katrina, please?
Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. I'm Katrina. I'm here at the Tech in San Jose. Excited to be with everyone. It was fun to hear from Jessica and Dorothy as well. And so just wanted to share a little bit about some of the work that we're doing and how we're thinking about AI literacy or AI in general. Science museums really, the way we kind of think about it is in 3 different stages. So we interact in terms of AI as a topic, thinking about what's on the floor, the activities that we offer, AI as a tool, so how are we using it behind the scenes, and then of course AI literacy more broadly. Let me share a little bit about each one of these. So when I think about AI's topic, of course, we've got, like I said, we're a hands-on science center right in the middle of San Jose and Silicon Valley. And so a number of our exhibits are really designed to be hands-on. The bottom right-hand corner, you can see that it's something that's called the Animaker, which has mostly young people. It helps them understand how AI works with pattern recognition. So for what young people do is they will create something, an animal out of Legos, and they have to go to a choice of things. And then it goes on one of our machines, and then it basically gets scanned by AI, and the AI says, like, is this a giraffe, or is this whatever the animal is they created? And it's a way to kind of gently help young people be able to understand how AI works by really looking at a bunch of giraffes and seeing whether or not your giraffe is actually closest to that one. And when we really started preparing for AI literacy, we really thought about like how we should be leaning into one of our strengths, which is hands-on. And you can do things with AI without actually having to use technology. So one of the activities that I really love to see, and I've seen kindergartners do this, and I've seen adults do this, which is really thinking about the ethics of AI. And so we have these cards, but you can do it in lots of different ways, where you introduce the idea of like, which kinds of things do you think robots or machines should help you with? And which kinds of things do you want to do on your own, or which things do you want to be helped with? And if a kindergartner can have a conversation around like, well, I want my parent to hug me. I don't actually want to have a machine do that. But I'm perfectly happy to have the machine do the dishes for me. And so like really being able to think about like, which kinds of things are appropriate that we want as a society, or as they want as individuals, to be able to use technology, even to be able to use AI for. We also have an exhibit that we do every year where we showcase people using technology for good, and last year happened to be AI for good. And so there's 4 different projects, and we really focus on how do we help illustrate and spotlight folks who are using technology to help their own individual communities. Because a lot of times, and this is true when we first had digital literacy, that it can either be able to create more access, or it can create more of a divide. And so we really wanted to showcase like what communities are using this to help themselves, rather than necessarily the next Uber. And we have, I'll show you, like we actually built out resources for each of these. So there are lessons plans for these. So they're very short videos. And then it can be used to start a lesson and really kind of inspiring folks to really think about like how AI may be able to be used. We've also included a podcast that we did in Spanish, as well as other lesson plans for folks. And we'll put the URL for this at the end of the chat. And then the other place that we really wanted to think about is like, how do we use AI as a tool? And this is a place that we've had fewer conversations as an industry around how do we get ourselves ready? How should we be thinking about AI, again, behind the scenes? And so we started with our guiding principles. What are the things that we care the most about? We really kind of leaned into we wanted to make sure that it was human-centered, the same as Dorothy was describing, making sure it's inclusive and accessible, as Jessica was also really talking about. The one thing we also are trying to sort out is climate conscious. There isn't a good way right now to be able to evaluate which tools you're using more energy or not, or how to make better choices around sustainability. So we acknowledged it, but we don't actually know necessarily how to do it yet. Although in the exhibit that is behind me, you can see our AI Dream Garden, we did intentionally make sure that we use a low language model to make sure that we were using a lot less energy than if we'd use a large language model. And I think this is actually important, because to think about is that as much as the world is this whole spectrum between skeptic and enthusiast, my staff, and I think most staffs, are actually in the same place. We're all really trying to figure out, most of my folks who are skeptics are really worried about the environment and worry having their jobs being replaced. And I have staff members who are like using every brand new tool and just are incredibly curious and want to try everything. And so when we created our internal policy, I made sure that we had the full range of folks who were on that committee. It was important to me that this not be a top-down. I wanted to make sure that it was something that we were thinking about, that everyone's perspectives included, and we ended up with a very different policy, I think, than we would have if we had just written it top-down. When we rolled it out, and we also rolled it out as a draft, recognizing that tools are going to continually change. But we made sure that when we didn't just go like, here's our new policy, here's the things you shouldn't do, here's some things that you can think about doing. We made sure that we were also leaning into this hands-on approach and having people be able to evaluate risk. And that also went into helping us think through like what our AI user guide. So the policy is going to stay largely the same, but the user guide is getting updated constantly based on real use cases that are coming through. And I just talked about, like, we have this AI user guide. We based this on a similar guide we had done before, which had to do with being inclusive, like what kind of language, what kinds of steps we need to make to create inclusive experiences at the tech. And it's really going to have to be about ongoing training. We have the AI Policy Committee meets quarterly to address new issues that are coming up or questions that people are having. In January, we're doing a conference style AI. So like you get to pick and choose depending on what level you are, what you're interested in, and then creating a Slack channel for people to be able to ask questions about it. And then AI as literacy, and this is actually where we're really leaning in. And I want to share a little bit. I mean, I think all of us have a loose definition, but it's really about the ability to understand, use, and evaluate AI responsibly and effectively. And so we've partnered with the EdSafe AI Alliance, with AI EDU, and Common Sense Media to launch the National AI Literacy Day. And so we're now going into our third year of this. And so March 27th, 2026, I would encourage everybody on here, and I'll share some information to be able to participate in any way that feels appropriate to your organization. But it's really around, you've got organizations across the country. We're all working together, either providing resources or doing local events. We have curriculum resources that everything that is on the site is free. And it's actually something that's really important for us to make sure everybody has access. And the same thing for the professional development that gets offered. This was last year. We had an event here that is hosted at the Tech, but also one that happens in DC as well, plus all of the affiliate ones that are happening across the country. A piece of this that's actually important is doing professional development. And when we first started talking about this, a lot of our staff, and I think this is true for everyone, was like, well, we aren't AI experts yet. and I was like, no one is. Like this is as generative AI has come out, we all kind of need to figure out and do this. And it was really around leaning into what do we know how to do well, and we know how to do hands-on training. And so we really leaned into that around like and we also talk a lot about mindset shift. And so we leaned into creating some professional development. It was really around shifting how you think about this. We did this as a webinar, but that was also available. And these resources are still available to folks. And again, I would invite, the ASTC, which is the Association for Science and Technology Centers, is also a partner. Many school districts are doing this. Lots of nonprofits are doing this. If you have resources that you want to share, it goes through a vetting process, and we make sure that we have activities for every single grade level. And every single grade level has at least one activity that does not require technology. Because the focus of this is like, how can we make sure that everybody gets to participate in an AI-enabled society? And that means that we've got schools that don't necessarily have AI tools or are not comfortable using AI tools. And so this will be, the link will also be available at the end of this webinar as well, in case folks want to participate. And put my email on here as well, in case anyone is interested in following up with questions. With that, I'll turn it back to either Anthony or Pati.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Katrina, for sharing that. Super informative, and definitely need to visit in person for sure.
Please do.
So we're going to shift to our last panelist, and before I make that introduction, would just love to kind of just pose this question for everyone to think about and share in the chat. And it's really been a theme that's also kind of come up throughout the presentations. Just really thinking about like what partnerships or collaborations have just strengthened your AI literacy initiatives. And while you put that into the chat, I have the utmost pleasure of introducing my other friend and colleague, Jamalian, is the founder and CEO of the Giant Room, co-design lab for families and schools. She has created learning products and programs used by millions of families and adopted by thousands of schools, libraries, and museums. Through her leadership at the Giant Room, Ozzy has collaborated with more than 15,000 schools, museums, libraries, and community organizations, including the Robin Hood Learning and Tech Fund, the Joanne Gaines Cooney Center, Lego Education, Scratch Foundation, Verizon Sesame Workshop, and Lysol. to deliver community engagement initiatives, co-design research, and learning programs that sit at the intersection of creativity, STEM, and the responsible use of technology, including AI. Ozzy holds a PhD in cognitive studies and education from Teachers College and Columbia University. Ozzy, we truly appreciate you spending time to join us today.
Of course, thank you so much for the warm introduction, Anthony. I'm going to share my slides and hopefully will you see the... Okay, perfect. And let me just go to the present mode. Amazing. Thank you again for sharing a very warm introduction, and it's really a pleasure and honor to share about our Giant Remix program in libraries and museums and other informal STEM organizations, and share some of the resources, tools, and frameworks we use in our own work, and hopefully that will be a good resource for other program readers in the space. So we founded Giant Room in 2018, and we dedicated the whole organization to kids with giant dreams who dare to ideate, build, and share their ideas. So hands-on making creative STEM has been at the cornerstone of everything that we do. And with the AI, we went back to the design board and we thought, how might we use affordances of AI to further expand, support, and enhance our community experiences? So everything you will hear today is all about kids' ideas and how AI can actually bring those ideas to the forefront. I'm going to share actually a very quick video that
across Connecticut
give you an introduction about the work, and then I will share more about the behind the scenes.
Something special is happening in our public libraries. It's called the Giant Remix, a community-based creative storytelling experience where preteens and teens bring their ideas to life using a blend of hands-on creativity, AI literacy, and real-world publishing. Giant Remix stations are set up at library branches, calling youth in the community to respond to a creative challenge co-designed by youth for youth. These playful missions include engineering their dream city, designing postcards for community change, writing civics-inspired comics, dreaming up their own community holiday, and even inventing a solution for a community problem. Youth ideas come first. In the Giant Remix, everything begins with the young person's idea, not with a screen, not with AI. Youth start by drawing, writing, or designing on a giant mission sheet, a low-tech, accessible entry point designed so every child in any language can participate. The program supports multiple ways of expression: drawing, writing, speaking, multilingual responses, aligned with Digital Promises recommendations on translanguaging and culturally sustaining learning. Every young person, regardless of background or language, has a way in. This ensures that their thinking, their imagination, and their identity lead the process.
All right, so as you can guess by watching the video, the first recommendation we always have for our programs are to start with an accessible entry point. And for us, we realize that just good old worksheets are a great way to invite everyone, no matter how what their relationship is with technology and no matter their background, they can pick up a paper and pencils and start engaging with the program. And this is also in line, as the video mentioned, with Digital Promise framework on how to design powerful learning experiences with emerging technology, which just came out 2 weeks ago. Highly recommend to read the paper. Everything is focused on designing learner-centered experiences with emerging technology, but putting the learner at the forefront and using technology in the back end to enhance the experience. Here's an example of how this might look like. This is Ellie's, who joined our first station at Klingley Public Library. You can see her submission to this creative mission that was for a holiday event at the library to design their creature that is hatching out of their Easter egg in this case. You can see how she responded by drawing and by writing. And then we use a set of AI tools to actually transform her submission into an AI avatar and then turn it into these published printed trading cards, send it back to the library for her to go and pick it up. So AI was used to bring her idea forefront and something that she truly was excited to go back to the library and pick it up and play with, share play with friends and family. But it all started with a medium that she was comfortable with. And as she came back to the library, this is her mission sheet of third time joining the program. You can see how much more elaborate her designs are, how much more details she's adding to the to her mission sheet. So not only using this AI program, it didn't take away her critical thinking or ideation. It actually motivated her to do more and to try to express herself in more detail, because she knew the more detail she adds, the more the closer that a final publication will be to her vision. And we don't stop there. Drawing and writing is just one way to respond to these creative missions. If you are part of a STEM organization, you have so many different tools for families and for children to use to actually make prototypes of those ideas. This could include modeling clay that every child likes to play with, 3D printers, laser cutters, arts and crafts material, anything and everything that you are already doing in your programs could be the beginning of the experience for them to use AI. Take a picture of that and upload it using any AI tools. In this case, we're using our own app, which combines a set of agents, and I'm happy to answer more questions about that. But you could really use any other AI tools to transform these into different AI avatars or different media to get published in different formats. And also, another very important element for us is to make sure that the programs are accessible to community that don't necessarily speak English or they're multilingual. This is one of my favorite examples of a mission sheet filled out by a child who nowhere on the mission sheet she mentioned that she wants to design a fox. And even the picture itself to me looked more like a dog. And when I saw her trading card, I actually thought AI made a mistake, and I sent an email to our design team just like, I think you need to revise this. I don't think she meant a fox. And then one of our designers who speaks Spanish mentioned, no, Zorro means fox in Spanish. And that's where AI actually picked up the name that she added and translated it and make sure that that goes into the prompt. And this is all done by different agents in the background that translate all different sources of information into designing an AI prompt to create the avatar. Recommendation number 2 is as we're designing programs for introducing these emerging technologies to families, we always encourage to design programs for the whole family. And this is based on our conversations with parents and with educators that they feel, it was actually one of the concerns in the chat that mentioned sharing about something I don't know yet understand myself. So the parents feel the same way. They want to introduce AI, a responsible use of AI to their children. They want to support their children, but they're not necessarily know where to start. So the informal spaces are a great opportunity for involving parents as part of the experience and designing programs that parents actually want to be involved. This is one of my favorite pictures that I always go to. You can see the parents behind the child. Both of them have a pencil in their hand and they're responding to this mission sheet. And in the hands of the parent, you can see this set of words. This is what we call word bank that are actually generated by AI within the context of that mission sheet, different words and different ideas that they could use to respond to those missions. And they're all based on ages that parents, and usually usually kids don't necessarily look at them, but parents really love them. They grab them, they look at these words, and they actually use that as conversation starters and discussion points with their child. So again, AI is not for front, but designing these age-specific, context-specific set of words takes lots and lots of time on our end. But using AI, we were able to create these resources for families and make them available on these stations that they could use. Number three, creating opportunities for AI literacy. So yes, families are responding to these mission sheets, and they could go back to the libraries or museums to pick up their final published work. But there is also an opportunity for them to learn more about these AI tools and just like what is happening behind the scenes. And that's what happens from when they submit their idea in the museum or the library to they get a mail, they get an email in their inbox with their link to the draft of their avatars. And those drafts have been all been vetted by a giant staff, by a human in the loop to make sure they are appropriate. And then we ask families to provide feedback and also making it very transparent how those avatars were created using their original mission sheets. I'm going to show it very quickly in the video so you get a sense of how it
Across kinetic
action. Give me 1 second. If I can make it work.
across
Okay. All right. It doesn't really work, but you will have the video and you can see it. Parents will receive an email and they will choose the avatar they like, and they will get these scaffolded feedback support to actually provide constructive feedback, what they like, what they don't like, and ways they want to improve their avatar. And in that experience, we highlight the fact that AI makes mistakes, make sure to spot AI mistakes. We give them extra point if they find any mistakes, and also we make sure to tell them AI ideas are not always best ideas. So like really highlighting these points that are important for their AI literacy. And finally, using affordances of AI to make community connections. And that's how we incorporate these publication parties. So they use this program to make these stories, trading cards, books, and then we invite them to come back to the libraries, to come back to the museums to pick up their printed book. And we always have this signature or autograph part that kids love to sign it, their copies, and basically give it to the organization. And we've heard it many times from librarians that they bring their families back to the library to show their book on shelf. And it's always a cycle. They come back and they do more. This is one of the showcases of all the publications in the library, that how the community has been keep coming back, and now they have a whole shelf of community published artifacts that brings this sense of community and belonging among their families. I'm going to stop here and happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Ozzy, so much for that. And thank you to all of our panelists for sharing the incredible work that your organizations have been doing around this topic of AI. It's such important work, and we're so happy to just be together in the space and just like have this conversation with each other. Um, we're gonna do just a quick get into our kind of our wrap ups. So I'm just gonna ask. There's another chat prompt that I'm gonna share. The way we're gonna actually do it this time is that you're gonna just cue your response. Don't hit enter yet. I'm gonna then transition to Pati. She's gonna just do some key takeaways, and we'll do a kind of a waterfall chat experience and have everyone share at the same time. So the prompt is, as an educator or program leader in informal STEM, what's one action you'll take to integrate or strengthen AI literacy in your work? And that prompt is in the chat. And so take your time to cue your response, and then I'll let you know when everyone can hit send.
And I'm just going to quickly thank all of our presenters today, Dorothy, Jessica, Ozzy, and Katrina. It's been really great to hear from all of you how you and your organizations are supporting youth learners, communities more broadly, to really be creators and shapers of these AI-enabled technologies and helping to build their STEM identity and confidence so that they can help us address the problems of today and tomorrow. And one of the big themes for me is the importance of making connections between AI literacy skills and practices to the foundational literacies that have been around for a very long time. And Dorothy, we've talked about this from the beginning, where we need to be making connections with the 21st century skills like critical thinking, creativity, collaboration, communication, as well as data literacy and media literacy, among so many others. So my takeaway is that we need to continue making connections to those foundational skills and practices, those durable skills, while also making connections to our communities. And that is something that was highlighted today with all of our speakers. So thank you. Back over to you, Anthony.
Thank you, Pati. So everyone, this is your moment to shine. Feel free to enter in your response to the question, and let's see the chat fill up with some responses.
Yeah, I'm seeing partnerships. I'm
Mhm.
excited to see what comes out
Yeah.
of this and what partnerships arise. And Katrina, yes, thank you for the call to National AI Literacy Day. And I think our colleague Ibel will be dropping all of the links that we've shared already in chat so that they're all in one place for everyone. I also want to remind folks that we will be sharing a recording of this on the informalscience.org website, which is linked in the set of links that Yvel just dropped. We have a resource page called Playful Pathways to AI in Informal STEM, and that's where you will eventually find the recording for this. Over to you, Valeria.
Thanks, Pati. So as we're wrapping up, we wanted to quickly invite you to please help the Revise Center enhance the development of future sessions like this one. So we kindly ask that you take a moment to complete our brief survey. The survey should take 10 minutes or less to complete. Your participation in the survey is entirely voluntary and your responses will be kept confidential. So we'll pause for a quick moment just to share the link in the Zoom chat. I think my colleague Yvel or Kim might be sharing that. Thank you. And we will also be sending the link via email as a follow-up to this session. So if you don't grab it from the chat, we'll also follow up in the email. But regardless of your role, experience, or involvement with the Revise Center, we welcome your feedback and value any input that you can provide.
Thank you, everyone. Go ahead, Valeria.
Yeah, just once again, thank you for joining today's session. These sessions are designed to inform AZO project teams and the broader informal STEM education community alike. Quickly looking ahead, we have an exciting lineup of upcoming events. We actually have part 2 of this series on December 17th. So we'll host part 2 of the Playful Pathways to AI Literacy and Informal STEM. And we'll be providing more details about that one, but it will take place on December 17th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. And later in February 2026, we are very excited to host the AZO awardee meeting. This is a convening of projects funded by the NSF AZO program. And we just wanted to quickly note that this particular event is limited to active AZO awardees only. We will be sharing more details on these upcoming events across our socials and newsletters. So be sure to subscribe to our newsletters and follow us on socials. Both links are provided in the chat as well. So this concludes our session. Thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone.
Take care, everybody.